Mottram, and we aim to make premium cycling clothing. The brand was started at the time because it recognised that there was cycling is a beautiful sport. It envisages all the great things about athletes and competition and suffering as we really try to strive to win. But I think at the time in the early 2000s, the clothing that people were wearing didn't represent the beauty of the sport. And Simon saw an opportunity to really build on this and also build on the storytelling that was lacking within the industry. We started off in 2004 only as an online business, which at the time was relatively rare. But as we've grown over the years that we've been operational, we've opened clubhouses around the world, one in Taipei, and we're now also looking to grow within the wholesale market. So our company purpose, and we've heard a lot about company values and company visions, is to inspire the world to live life by bike. And I think every company here has a similar positive view of cycling. We know how positive it can be for people, for society, and for the planet. But I would like to really pick up on this, that we also know we have a responsibility to manage the impact that this action really can cause. We know the products we put on market impact the people that make those products, and also the planet through the resources they use in the manufacturing processes. So that's led us really to our sustainability journey and why we believe it's so important to address this impact as well. So just a very brief overview of where sustainability has grown at Rafa, and I think this is important for other brands as well to sort of show how we've began to integrate it as part of our corporate structure and where the value for us comes from. So back in 2004 when Rafa launched, we were offering premium products, and a primary function of premium products is you want that product to last, and that's the foundation of everything we do. We invest a huge amount of time and effort in testing and developing products, making sure they really are the best for what you need. But we know that cycling can be an adventurous sport and accidents do happen. So almost as soon as we launched, we were offering free crash repairs. That's because if you're buying a premium product, you want it to last. And if it can be repaired and kept for longer, there's an incredible value from an emotional sense with that product. I think it's interesting that repair, especially within the garment sector, has grown so much as a sustainability initiative. For us, it's always just been part of our customer service. Fast forward a decade, and the products we make, and our signature product is a jersey constructed of a merino and polyester blend called our classic jersey. We redesigned this jersey to incorporate recycled materials and responsibly sourced wool into that jersey. And that was the first time we really looked at what the product could be using alternative materials. Moving on, in 2019, Rafa joined what was then called the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. We've heard a lot about the role of collaboration and the importance of working together. I think for fashion and apparel business, and granted we're probably more of that side, although we operate within cycling, really does a great job of working together and sharing information. So for those of you who aren't aware, the SAC was started in 2009 as a collaboration between Walmart and Patagonia. And the view is we're all using the same factories, we're all asking the same things of these suppliers. So rather than all coming individually, let's approach these together and share one audit for one facility that can be accessed by 20 or 30 brands at once. This also led to a sharing of data. So the SAC has created databases, and we heard about the role of data and the value for cycling. We now have shared emission databases where we can normalise our reporting for the materials we use. Moving forward for how Rafa has progressed, in 2020 we published our impact commitments, and we'll go through these in a little bit more detail, but this is where we wanted to be as a brand. But then as you publish these, it's important to hold yourself accountable. And I think this is really one of the things I'd inspire or encourage all brands to take a part in, is to really be accountable. And don't worry as well if that progress isn't as quick as you would like, but really own it. Don't wait until the job to be done to share that information, because really that sort of inspiration from other brands, we heard from Trek yesterday and Schwalbe on the journeys they're doing, inspires the industry. And then finally, in 2023, we were the first cycling company as a whole to set a scope 1, 2 and 3 verified science-based target, and that's our emission reduction. And we will be talking later around plans for decarbonisation. I think the thing I would really call out is a net zero target is fantastic for 2050, but the real work we need to do is the next 5-10 years. And our short-term target is the one which I'm sharing internally, and that's the one we're tracking against. The 2050 target is where we all have to be, but if we're not reducing our emissions, for us by 45% by 2030, the planet is going to be irreparable through the impact of climate change. So that 2050 target would almost become redundant. And I think that's really important that we focus on the now and the actions to get there. But we talked around our impact and our impact commitments. I'm just going to go through how we measure impact and where that sits at RAFA. We've heard a lot of this conference, and I think it's been fantastic to have sustainability on the agenda. But for us, sustainability is not just from an environmental perspective. We know the people that make our products, but also the people that are using our products are so key, and bringing them along on the transition to ensure it is a just transition is integral. Additionally, we talk around planet, and we're going to go into this around our carbon footprint, but it's so much more than just carbon as well, and that's where we have a lot of work to do with exploring this. And then finally, products. They're such an emotive thing. It's been incredible to walk around the conference and see all the new products that are coming to market, but these need to be done in a responsible way. So we have some targets around this as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all this list, but just a summary of where we are on some of these targets. The top targets are all around promoting diversity within the sport, making sure that we're getting people onto bikes, and also making sure the people that we're representing as a brand represent the whole world and not just the traditional cycling customer. It's also incredibly important that we consider the people within the supply chain. Taiwan and Vietnam are two key countries for us in manufacturing our products, and it's important from a social perspective that we're auditing these facilities and making sure the people who are making them are looked after as well. We'll go on to climate, but it's also then around the products that we make, and we talk around materials a lot. Materials is a unifying topic for, I think, bicycle and fashion. We're facing similar challenges in how we transition those materials. And then the topic at the end we'll talk around, and I know Eric's sharing a lot on later, is around circularity and how we ensure for prolonged life and alternative business models. I've mentioned it a bit, but for us as a brand, who we sponsor and who we give money to, and subsequently the stories we tell, is so important. We're as much about our storytelling as we are about our products. And the teams that we're sponsoring, if you look at the Pro Peloton in the World Tour, and also in most other races, unfortunately that's still quite a narrow section of society. And we think it's so important to sponsor teams and give opportunity to teams that maybe haven't had those opportunities before. So RAFA this year has sponsored a team based in across Africa called Amani, and they race gravel bikes, and that we're sort of giving them an opportunity amongst a whole host of other brands, many of them who are here at the conference, to race on a more global scale and really raise their profile. I mean, I think a real success, and we can at times as an industry congratulate work that has been done already, is around the reintroduction of the Tour de France Femme, which for so long was a gaping hole in the sport, and I think a real poor reflection on the just gender diversity within the sport. We as a brand put content out, we told stories, we made films, we sponsor a team, and I know we're not the only brand to do that, but I really think that we need to make sure that the people and our brands are showing for people and giving people idols to look towards as well. Next, on to our carbon footprint, and I'm not going to go into this too much in detail at the moment, but it's just to share here really that we can see different percentages of scopes, but within the garment sector, the majority of the emissions sit with outside the main control of our business. We use factories to manufacture our garments, we use mills which aren't owned by us. But I don't think that means that it isn't our responsibility to reduce those emissions, and the main message here is really all of the scopes of emissions should be, in my mind, for companies' carbon footprint. Scope 1 and 2 isn't enough unless you are a manufacturing facility. Going into Scope 3, it's no surprise that the products make up the majority of these emissions. This is from our raw material extraction all the way through to the finished goods. But it's also other sections around transportation, which are a key environmental impact for us and an area that we can tackle. I think as my advice, if I can share from a garment and fashion perspective onto the bicycle industry, is ultimately these numbers may change as emission factors vary. If cotton or wool or polyester change, the percentage of our footprint may be sort of proportionally adjusted, but ultimately we know that the products are our main focus, and I think it should be progress over perfection. Let's make sure we know where we should be going after and go after it, and then look to perfect those exact numbers moving forward. And one of the key ways we can do that is by using what we refer to as environmentally preferred materials. A real benefit within the textile industry is an organisation called Textile Exchange. They establish minimum standards that materials need to adhere to, whether that's for synthetics, where largely they're recycled, or for natural fibres, which would be organic or responsibly sourced wool, for example. And we're committed that 90% of our production volume will incorporate these materials by 2025. That number there at 24% is from autumn-winter 22. I can tell you by 2024 we're approximately 60%. And I think this journey will continue on. And this is where we will share this number even if we don't reach 90, because we will reach 90, maybe not in 25, but it may be 26. But this is inspiration for other brands. And I think for brands who are it's great for smaller brands who can start from afresh and make sure that every product they manufacture is using these materials. But for bigger brands, I think this progress and journey can take a couple of years, but don't be afraid to be at 20%, because that's 20% further on than we would have been if we didn't set ourselves these ambitions. So I've talked around how we've measured our impact and the targets that we set. I want to bring that to life with a couple of projects that we're proud of as a business that again cover a breadth of our impact. The first one of these we're incredibly proud of is supported by our owners, and this is the Rafa Foundation. The Rafa Foundation is a charitable fund that basically exists to inspire the world to live life by bike. Since 2019, it's donated over $4.5 million to grassroots cycling initiatives to enable people to have access to cycling, whether that's from small cycling groups to more professional teams. It really is a sort of cornerstone of how we're getting people onto bikes. And I think when we think about value creation, it's incredibly positive to do this, but it's also incredibly positive for the brand to share these stories. And one of our strengths is telling stories and creating brand messaging which is engaging to customers. So with that in mind, I'm going to share a 60-second clip that we made around this story, which I think does it far better than I'm doing at the moment. So let's watch that.